voice of the Mysterons. We know that you can hear us, Earthmen. You attacked our complex on Mars, and you will pay a heavy price.
Right, this is a very special blog on Mars. As you may have seen on the news, a space ship, for want of a better word, a probe, has landed on Mars, launched by NASA. I'm on that probe. As I'm talking now, a little picture's going to pop up. It's a boarding pass, because before the mission started, before it took off back in 2015, I think it was August 2015, there was an opportunity from NASA to register your name, and your name will be put on a computer chip. And obviously there's more than my name on there, but it's put on a computer chip, and that computer chip is attached to the InSight probe. So my name is now currently on Mars, and obviously the probe's going to stay there for ever and ever, and at some point if aliens do visit Mars and they find this little chip, they're going to find my name. I've made it to Mars, I've made it to Mars, yes. So let's just talk a little bit about this probe. I'm going to look a bit down here, so I took some notes of what is going on. Basically, I'm going to put a picture of the actual Mars probe so you can see what it looks like. What it's kind of doing is doing two things. Generally when Mars probes have been there, like the Viking missions and the Curiosity, they've just sort of driven around and they're looking for rock samples. This one's a little bit different. It's actually going to drill into the Martian soil, and it's using, it says, the two instruments, the Seismic Experiment for Interior Structure, SEIS, which is provided by the French Space Agency, the Swiss one. Yeah, so it's going to drill down and it's going to try and suss out what's going on, how the planet evolved, which will help how Mars evolved, how the tectonics of Mars, like it all moves. It's not got the same tectonics as Earth with the shifting continents and that, but it's going to investigate that. It's going to sort of investigate how the planet was formed, which will in turn help us realise how the Earth was formed, and it'll just use data which will potentially transform our understanding of all the planets in our solar system. Certainly the inner planets, which are made of rock, not so much Jupiter outwards because they're gaseous planets, but certainly for Mars, for Mars, Earth, Venus, Mercury, they're all rocky planets, and it's going to help discover and how we view how the planets were formed. Am I making sense there? Probably not. No, probably not. So because it's a little bit of speculation what they're going to find, what they're not going to find, obviously those results are going to be filtered out back to planet Earth as and when, and I'm following them on Twitter and I may find out stuff. But I just thought I'd peer down every now and then, because there are facts about Mars which you may not know about. For instance, there is a volcano on Mars. It hasn't erupted obviously, but it's called Olympus Mons, and it is more than twice the size of Hawaii's Mauna Loa, which is the tallest mountain from Earth top to bottom. So that's twice the size of it. So if you've ever been to Hawaii and you've seen the size of that, this one on Mars is twice the size of the one in Hawaii. There's also a canyon on Mars. It's called Valles Marineris. I can't pronounce these properly. Marineris. Marineris. I should have lessons on how to pronounce words, shouldn't I? But it's nearly 5 times deeper and 4 times longer than the Grand Canyon. Now I've seen the Grand Canyon and that's awesome, and people watching this may have seen the Grand Canyon, and it really is a spectacular sight. But this trench, this canyon on Mars, is like 5 times, 4 times bigger than the Grand Canyon. That's huge. That's huge. As I said earlier, the Mars doesn't have plate tectonics, so the continents don't shift. but it does have earthquakes. How does that do that? Well, there's plumes, magma from the surface, that they send plumes out, and that causes the earthquakes. Plumes is like a big sort of spurt of, say like a geyser that you get in Iceland, and it would spurt something out, and they're quite frequent on Mars. You see lots of plumes going out, and so that he's going to investigate some of that as well. Anyway, the tectonics and all that. So that's quite interesting. Tsunamis out. It's a silent in it. Tsunamis, oceans on Mars, because there's no physical water on Mars as such. I'll get back to that in a minute. Also had tsunamis like those on Earth, and the tallest may have reached as high as 400 feet. So that's slightly shorter than the height of the London Eye. So if you lived in England, you know how big that is. If you've seen the London Eye, that's huge. That's huge. If you're not 400 feet, Google what might be in your country. It's 400 feet. That's huge. That's a huge tidal wave of water. Huge tidal wave. Now there are ice caps on Mars, and it's basically the poles. Like we have the North and South Pole, is exactly the same on Mars. It has a North and a South Pole, and the northern cap is up to 2 miles deep. It's a mixture of water and carbon dioxide, and the area of this ice cap on Mars, the northern one, is slightly larger than the state of Texas in America, so that's quite huge. Now you can't see those ice caps with the naked eye, but if you've got a telescope, and I've not checked it with binoculars because I've not really got binoculars, but you can certainly get powerful binoculars, you can see the polar ice caps on Mars through a telescope. That's quite a cool thing to see. Through the naked eye, you can see Mars. You can say, there it is there. I think I may have said it on another blog, or if not, it will come up in a future vlog when it comes back round again. You can see it quite easily because it does look very red, because Mars is the red planet. So it's quite an easy one to see. So keep an eye out for that, because when Mars pops around again, if I've not mentioned it, I'm not sure if I mentioned it in my last one, it will come around again. It's always coming around. It could be an early morning thing, a middle of the night thing, but they'll come around because everything revolves around the sun. Now another little fact is the surface area of Mars. Mars has almost as much surface area as the Earth has land. So I think Mars is slightly bigger than the Earth. Don't quote me on that one, I should know that one. But it doesn't take into account that 71% of the Earth's surface is covered in water, whereas Mars hasn't really got water. So we've got a lot more water, and with water there's life. That's why they're looking at, as a slight sidetrack, one of the moons of Jupiter is Io. I think it's Io the one they're looking at, but it's basically they get spurts of water vapour coming out, and that's why they think there could be life on the moon of Jupiter. So this could be a forerunner of that. They testing this equipment out. They may launch something to Jupiter and test more there. Who knows? Who knows? The Martian atmosphere is 61 times thinner than the Earth's atmosphere, and it consists almost of carbon dioxide, which makes up 0.04% of the Earth's atmosphere. So if you've seen Total Recall, the movie, I'm not sure about the new one, but certainly the old one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he goes out and then his helmet goes off and his eyes bulge. That's why, because there's no atmosphere, and he can't know it. His eyes bulge, and yeah. So it's not a lot of atmosphere. So I kind of wonder how they can do that. They're saying they're going to try and send man to Mars, but there's no atmosphere. But obviously they'll probably work out. They're probably going to build some sort of space dome with oxygen in it, and maybe somehow to create oxygen. I don't know. It's interesting times when we get to Mars, because we will get to Mars. Sunsets on Earth. Sunsets are a brilliant mix of reds, pinks and oranges and yellows and other colours, and you see that. You can see that red sky at night, Shepherd Delight, you see that red sunset, and obviously the orange sun goes down, so the yellow sun goes down. On Mars they're blue. It's a blue. That's weird, isn't it? I mean, that would be quite cool to see, wouldn't it? The sun going down and it's a blue sun. That's because the air is a dozen times less dense on the surface of Mars than it is on our planet. So the sunlight refracts less, because that's what causes the sun to change colour from our point of view. is the refraction of light rays on the atmosphere. It's if you've got a prism or you've seen a prism at school, it just shows the way you shine the light in it and then you see all the different colours come out. So that's basically why you get a blue sunset. That'd be really cool to see, a blue sunset. That's very spacey, isn't it? So that's basically my little Mars in a nutshell of little facts that I've been reading off. Some of them I kind of know in a way, but I don't want to get them too wrong. That's why I was looking down, just reading them out properly. And it's interesting times. This probe has landed. It's going to be interesting to see what it does. So there's only one way I can end this vlog. I've not got the music, so I'm just going to blurt it out with a David Bowie and say, "Is there life on Mars?" Who knows?